If you're unhappy, what are you comparing yourself against?
This is how legends are made.
This is a thought that just kind of came to me that I want to do a video about. It's come about from a few meetings, and I think actually exchanged over the last few weeks, that really highlight when we are upset, when things aren't working out the way we would like them to be. It's we're making a comparison. Now, obviously, the comparison would be against what we would like to achieve, and how things are not as we want them to be, and how we see them ideally to be. But in that area, there's conflict, isn't there? Because we've got a point where we are dealing with reality compared to expectation. And we have so many arguments with ourselves. We can really beat ourselves up. Now, I've spoken in the past about working with certain children where I find that the entry points to their thinking is actually through some negative comparisons they're making, which only begin to reinforce their own self-belief or their low self-esteem. But interestingly, out of conversations, I found that that's also can apply to so many other groups, and this doesn't need to be children, this is grown-ups, and it doesn't matter about economic background. It's about how they're seeing themselves and their expectations they set up. I challenge you in this vlog, really, when you are upset over something, what is it you're expecting that's not happening? What is it for you you're comparing it to? What's the expectation that's not following through? What's the two differences there? And I offer you that that is really what's causing a lot of the stress and anxiety, the comparison between how things are to how you'd like them to be. This could be how you're behaving. This could be a work-related situation. This could be achieving something personally. It could be even not anything directly, but just a collective model of what you believe should be happening, society or culturally expectations of you, and you're using that. The anguish we can feel, and it's so palpable, as I say, regardless of race or gender or background. Our comparisons really form so much of our pain when we use ones, as in the case of expectations, to make comparisons. Now, obviously, there are comparisons which are useful. I think it's worth stipulating that aspirations, such as things we would like to achieve and we're on the path to achieving, are worthwhile. These are no expectations, but these are the aspirations where we can use it in a positive form. Expectations has a connotation or a judgment place that's saying that things haven't happened that they would like to have happen. And in that war, in that conflict, we create pain and upset. So meetings have been about actually, how do we become aware of this? What do we then do about it? And how I approach it, and this is not for the first time I've mentioned it, but it's about actually breaking down in detail what the expectation really wants to achieve. So rather than looking at the gloss or the finish, the results, making the comparison, actually what is behind it? What's it looking to do? By actually extracting the details, we actually may find we're a lot closer to what we're after. It may not look exactly as we expect it to, but maybe we're doing better than we realize. This helps us with perspective, helps us to understand maybe we're achieving more than we think, and actually things aren't so bad. It gives us that bit of buffer. So let me give you an example. I had a conversation recently where a dad was feeling anxious over not being a present parent, wanting to do more work and wanting to be doing more with their child, and it just wasn't working out based on the idea that he should be dedicating more time to work and should be dedicating time to the family, and it should all work out, and this was causing a lot of anxiety. The first thing we can try and do is actually, what does he particularly want to achieve, or what does he see specifically happening in the expectations? And it was interesting as he spoke, because he saw how he wanted to be a present parent. He wanted to be there for the important moments in his son's life, which when you're at work and you're not at home can be an awful pressure, because this can be, it's gender free really, but any parent that is work and is missing out, they believe they're missing out on certain things, can feel very difficult to hear about from a distance. So what we say is that, well, what you want to achieve is that you want to be there for your child and enjoy the moments. Well, are you then saying that you're not? And obviously they came back and said, no, well, I'm there for the weekends, I'm making some evenings back. I said, okay, so we're not achieving the ideal that you're talking about, But we're not double negative, not achieving some of those things. We are actually doing some things which are getting closer towards that goal. Now, how do we then engineer increasing that time, and how do we balance workout is a kind of a further conversation about saying, well, we need to look at maybe not just each day or each week, but maybe every month, and see how we're performing as a parent in that respect. Maybe there's going to be weeks where we can make bath time every day, and maybe there's weeks when we can't. By taking a step back and looking at it with perspective, we're able to actually balance out this judgment. The expectation can kind of be dialed back down to be more realistic to the reality of running late before our commute to get home, or work piling up in some form which needs our attention. If we're able to take the distance, analysing our expectations to what you really want to achieve, we're probably doing better than we think. And we also may realise that the expectation is quite a large, grand one that really isn't actually helping us achieve the ultimate goal, which is to be a present parent, or to make sure we're delivering at work. So one of the things I also mentioned, I think this is something that's going to be valuable, is also noticing what's the emotion we're linking to this expectation, what's happening outside of this. And in a lot of cases, there can be guilt. It's not an uncommon feeling to feel that we're not helping, not present, and so on. And we have to ask ourselves, well, who's placing that guilt in our heads? Whose voice is it? Or if it's a person or a thing, or as I said before, maybe it's just a kind of a whole cultural expectation. These feelings are very powerful, they're not very useful, and only criticize what we do achieve. We can assuage this, or we can push it back by noticing what we are doing, by actually looking at what our expectations are, looking in detail what we want to do, and in this case would be just to be a present parent, but we are achieving that is happening. So the guilt isn't as valid as we're making it out to be. By creating this perspective, creating some distance, understanding the expectation in detail and the intention behind it begins to create some balance, a little more ease, so that we can be a bit more at peace with ourselves and our effort. One of the things I often say is that we can never guarantee that things will get better, but we can be sure they're going to change. And whatever situation we're currently faced, it is temporary. Nothing stays the same. If we are aware of that, it can make it a little easier when we're dealing with these challenges, or when our expectations aren't being met, to dial it back, to settle back and realize, what do we want to achieve here? And over time, we may see that we actually are. One of the things in this particular example about being a father for the first time is that, and as many of you may know, being a parent for the first time, is that you don't have any predictability. There is no certainty. On a day-to-day basis, anything can change. Could it be going well or poor? But you have no idea of what to predict for. And in many parts of our work, we can have a degree of predictability. We roughly know certain things. We roughly know when the day is going to end. But with a newborn and learning the skills as a parent, it's a day-to-day learning the process, and no one's giving you the rules to do it, and you have to make it up as you go along. This level of uncertainty, which is probably counterintuitive to our needs as humans, proves such a challenge. But we can get some perspective, we can get some distance on this to realize it's about time and it's about patience. Both are hugely important in this journey. So this is what I was sharing in the meetings. What could you take from this? Back to the challenge. When you have a comparison, when you are upset, when something's really bothering you, ask yourself, what is it I'm comparing this to? What do I expect to have happen that's not happening? With that awareness may give you some insight to what you can go and do, what action you may need to go and take, or what communication needs to happen. But I think you'll be surprised how often it's simply a comparison that's causing the greatest amount of upset for you. And maybe all it takes is a bit of communication, and maybe it takes just a simple bit of communication to let someone know something in a respectful and compassionate way. Maybe they need to be aware of it. Maybe you need to act in a different way that achieves what you're after, or reduce your comparisons, reduce the expectations, so you're not at war so much with it. So try out the challenge, and if you find there's people in your community, your friends or family who also are finding a lot of anxiety and stress, ask them this question, share the video if you like, because it may be they're hanging on to an expectation that really is not based in reality or is achievable, and it's just a negative one they're hanging on to. But for now, as ever, please subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video, not to miss out on any future ones, and hit the like button because I really appreciate your feedback. If you want to drop me a comment as well, that would be great. Any questions on any subject at all, let me know and I'll answer for every single one of them. Other than that, I'll catch you next time.
This is how legends are made.